Hi, what's going on? I am Ash from the Daily Mail, and I'm here with Moby. And everything's recording. We're all recording. We're all on together. But this phone is primarily on you. I'm not attractive enough to be in the shot.
This light makes everyone look kind of sepulchral. Oh, sorry, microphone. this light, I mean, because I'm looking at myself there, and it's like I always look kind of terrible, but I feel like, especially with like this overhead, like it's.
We're in an old building. We're in a very old building.
Yeah.
But we're in Barnes & Noble.
We're
here to talk about your new book, which is Porcelain.
Sure.
Which is exciting. What is the most outrageous... I'm really excited for it. I'm genuinely very excited for this book. I want to know what the most outrageous thing in this book is.
There's a lot.
Yeah?
So here's the thing. When I was writing the book, before writing it, I went out and read a whole bunch of other people's memoirs. Mm-hmm. And what I found is most of them are really self-involved and dull, which sort of by definition, like a memoir, you have to be a little bit of a narcissist or a lot of bit of a narcissist to write about yourself for 400 pages.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So I read a lot of other memoirs, and I realized there are two ways in which memoirs tend to go wrong. One is if they're just too self-involved and the things that the writer is writing about just would have no general interest, or if the writer is being disingenuous and trying to present themselves in some homogenized, anodyne way. And I feel both of those things, you feel so disappointed because like you want either salacious details or relevant details. So in writing the book, I thought, okay, I don't know if I can write well. I don't know if anyone will like it, but at the very least, I can try to write something honest and interesting. So that way I thought if someone picks it up, even if they hate me or have no interest in me or anything I've done, there's still hopefully things in the book that will resonate with people. So in terms of the most, were you saying salacious or extreme? Outrageous. I mean, there's one chapter about my very brief career as a professional dominatrix.
That's extraordinary.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of that.
So I was dating, this was the 90s when basically if you dated in New York in the 90s, you dated sex workers. That was just kind of a given. Like everybody was either a sex worker or dating a sex worker.
Sure, I can roll with that.
So one of the dominatrixes I dated faxed me. It's about 1997. She faxed me and she said, "Are you interested in being a dominatrix for a day?" She said she had a client who, and by the way, I just realized who I'm talking to. This is the Daily Mail. This is like a tab. So okay, all of a sudden, like for the next 30 years, I'm going to go to the UK and people are going to be like, professional dominatrix or something, like some great pun will be made out of it. But so she had a client who was a successful accountant, and he wanted to be a wig salesman who would refuse to leave a woman's apartment. Her boyfriend would come home, yell at him, and then the woman would beat the accountant. So I pretended to be the boyfriend, Master Bobby, that was my name.
Master Bobby.
You'll notice you can spell Moby out of Master Bobby. It's sort of like Axl Rose or the Lizard King or whatever. Mr. Mojo Rising, which is an acronym for Jim Morrison. So I put on my toughest clothes, which was like a torn old T-shirt and a Def Leppard jacket and mirrored sunglasses, and I show up at this apartment because I wanted to honor his request, and so I walk in ready to be tough. And I walk in, and there's this dangerously obese man in a purple teddy with an auburn wig dancing around to the Andrews Sisters. Well, the person I was dating, this dominatrix, she was very little in her PVC looking nervous. And I tried so hard not to laugh. And I walked in, and I then said, "You should," I don't know, what do you say to a dominatrix to make this complete? So I said, "Kick his ass." And then she hit him with a riding crop a few times. He went into the bathroom, did whatever he did in there, put on his business suit, and left. And I got paid $1. That way I can say I was a professional dominatrix.
I genuinely think that is one of my favorite stories I've ever
there's
heard.
better. So and that's a good one, but there's definitely there's some other more salacious stuff in there.
Do you cover the for the PG audience at home? Do you cover the crotch game that you used to play, or you supposedly played until you then set the record straight? Does that get mentioned? Do you mention like stupid encounters you've had with journalists? Because I'm terrified that I'm going to appear in Moby Memoir too.
No, so the crotch game, which was affectionately known as knob touch.
Yes.
All I can say, I'd like to leave that in the realm of the ambiguous. Perhaps I did it, perhaps I didn't. Let's just keep it in a nice gray area, because I think that's more, like if I deny it, it has like shades, is it Macbeth, of like thou dost protest too much, you know, like, or if I admit to doing it, I'm then tarred forever as the guy who took his area out.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe, I don't know who we're talking to.
The PG audience.
Yeah, the PG audience. So the guy who took his
member,
yeah, that's a polite way of saying it,
out
in private, I realize some people would find that to be kind of creepy. So I will just keep it in the realm of the ambiguous. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. All I can say is friends of mine definitely did it. So I might have been repeating a story that was told to me in order to sound cooler and creepier than I actually might be. Or I might have done it, I don't know.
I think
but that's not in the book.
It's not covered in the book.
The book covers 1989 to 1999. Basically, the book ends the day that the album Play gets released.
Okay.
Which I thought was marginally interesting, to end at what ostensibly would be the beginning of the narrative with which most people are familiar.
Got it. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of your body of work. Speaking of releasing albums and stuff, do you miss touring? Like, is there like a deep-seated craving that lurks deep within you that you kind of need? You feel like you have to constantly be out on the road, or are you very much put those demons to bed and it's like, I would rather be anywhere but touring right now?
So I don't want to complain.
No.
Because a middle-aged musician complaining about how hard it is to go on tour and stand on stage and have people love what you do, like no one should complain about that, and certainly no one should listen to anyone who's complaining about that. But I hate touring. I live in Los Angeles now. I live across the street from Griffith Park. I go hiking a lot. I'm a cliche. I do yoga. I'm a vegan. And it's nice. You know, I have a nice girlfriend. We do normal things. We watch Game of Thrones. Like, touring to me only makes sense if you're young and it's new, or if you can do it on a really successful level, or if you need to make alimony payments or something. But like, so
okay, sure.
And I don't want to criticize or malign middle-aged musicians who tour, but that idea of like, I don't want to be the guy in his 50s who's out there playing the songs that people liked 20 or 30 years ago.
Okay.
And then that sad moment when like the musician in his 50s says, and this is a new song, and everyone checks their phone or goes to the bathroom. You know, like,
Yeah,
if you don't have to do that, why do it? Because, I mean, some people can do it well. Neil Young, he tours, and he's old, and he looks great. Leonard Cohen tours, and it feels relevant and amazing. But other musicians, that like desperate grasp or desperate clinging to some semblance of relevance, like, I'm 50, my most successful years are clearly behind me, and for me to pretend otherwise is like, who am I kidding? You know, like, so if I showed up wearing young people clothes, having done a new song with Katy Perry or something, like, right. Clearly it's just like, it's a little bit like Death in Venice by Thomas Mann. You know, like, you're like trying to prevent the entropy that inevitably is part and parcel of the human condition. And I'm okay with living an entropic existence.
Do you know, for someone that's 50, you look very young for 50. I feel like you've aged gracefully.
That's very kind of you to say.
I think it must be the yoga and the veganism, genuinely.
And also, I should look like Gollum. I really should, because I spent decades drinking 15 drinks a night and doing whatever terrible drugs were put in front of me and touring and being anxious. And so, like, I don't think I've aged all that well, but, like, I should look like Marky Smith meets Gollum on, like, the worst of possible days. So I really think veganism is the only thing that has kept me from looking like terrible, unattractive Gollum at the end of his life.
So veganism is the key to youthful immortality?
It might be one of them.
Okay.
I mean, possibly. I've got some friends who are vegan in their 50s and 60s, and like a friend of mine is vegan in his mid-50s, and he's running these things called centuries. So a marathon is inconceivable to me. Like, I couldn't run a marathon. He runs a century. It's 100 miles up a mountain.
No.
They
Why?
start in Death Valley and they run to the top of Mount McKinley. It's a 100-mile run, and it's apparently the most arduous, demanding thing anyone could possibly do.
I have two more questions very quickly. One, do you, I know we were talking about cliches, do you hate hearing any of your own music at this point? Or do you still very much fondly remembering all of it?
I mean, at this point, because I've been making records for a long time, so now when I hear, I'm gonna try and say this in a way that doesn't make me sound like a po-faced grad student, but when I hear a lot of my older music, they're like mnemonic time capsules.
Okay.
So like when I hear a song, I don't hear it as a song, it reminds me of where I was when I made it and who I was when I made it. And there's sort of now an almost like winsome fondness. Because I think like, oh boy, I was like 24 when I wrote that, and I was so naive, and Bill Clinton was president and the world was cute. And so like, and then occasionally I'll hear something I did a long time ago and I'll say, oh, that's not bad.
I did okay. I did some good things.
Like, I'll actually like be able to have some degree of quasi-objectivity or like subjective objectivity and say, oh, yeah, that piece of music that I made 20 some odd years ago, I can sort of understand why someone might have had an emotional connection to that.
That's genuinely one of my favorite answers to that question, I think. That
Oh,
was
thanks.
that was genuinely really lovely. My last question is, obviously, you've now got your memoir out. Is there anything left that you wish to achieve? And in that sense, sort of, you know, would you plan to produce more music? Do you want to go out and do a completely different thing? Do you think you'll be an author? Or is there someone you'd like to collaborate with still? Or are you very much kind of just at this wonderful zen point in your life?
One of my goals in life, as strange as this might sound, is I never want to have a career. The idea of a career makes me very sad because I want to make music and I'd love to write books and I'd love to be much more involved in animal rights activism. But when you have a career, your criteria for evaluating things often become, and I'm sure you encounter this quite a lot, becomes how are you furthering yourself and your career? How are you developing your personal brand? That makes me so sad. It makes me want to punch myself in the face. Like to be like, I want to make music for the sake of making music. I'd like to write books because I love writing books, and maybe when you put them out in the world, someone somewhere might respond to it or benefit from it. I'd like to do activist things because I think the world could be a better place, but I don't want to do it in a way that feels like creepy personal brand development. Like I don't want to put out a perfume line or a clothing line unless I develop this weird Brian Eno-esque love for perfume. You know, if it's done from a place of like true love and enthusiasm, then great. But if it's done because you think it increases your bottom line or maximizes your personal brand development, like it literally feels like an affront to everything that's good about humanity. Not to judge people who do that, even, well, I guess I just did, but yeah.
Thank you ever so much for taking the time out to talk to us.
Oh,
the
my
book,
pleasure.
Moby Porcelain, is out now. You can go and buy it at Barnes & Nobles or any other sort of store that you want. But go to Barnes & Nobles. They've got signed copies. It's good.
Yeah.
You can buy things. It's good.